Okay. Canto 3, Chapter 2. Yes? Text number 20. 3, 2, 20. Remembrance of Lord Krishna. Tataiva chanye naraloka vira. Ya ahave Krishna mukhara vindam. Netrai pibanto nayanabhiramam. Parthastra Bhuta Padam Apurnasya Tataiva Chanye Naraloka Vira Ya Ahave Krishna Mukhara Vindam Netrai Pibanto Naya Nabhiramam Parthasta Puta Padam Apur Asya.
Tataiva chanye naraloka vira Ahave Krishna Mukara Vindam Netrai Pibanto Nayana Viramam
Ladies?
Tataiva chanye
Tata, as also, evacha, and certainly, anye, others, nara loka, human society, viraha, fighters, yea, those, ahave, On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna's mukha aravindam, face like a lotus flower, netrayi, with the eyes, vibandha, while seeing, nayana abhiramam, very pleasing to the eyes, partha, Arjuna, astrapotaha, purified by arrows, padam, abode, apoho, achieved, asya, of him. Translation: certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows, and while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eyes, they achieved the abode of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, appears in this world for two missionary purposes: to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants. But because the Lord is absolute, his two different kinds of actions, although apparently different, are ultimately one and the same. His annihilation of a person like Shishupal is as auspicious as his actions for the protection of the faithful. All the warriors who fought against Arjuna, but who were able to see the lotus-like face of the Lord on the battlefront, achieved the abode of the Lord exactly as the devotees of the Lord do. The words, quote, pleasing to the eyes of the seer, are very significant. When the warriors from the other side on the battlefield saw Lord Krishna at the front, they appreciated his beauty, and their dormant instinct of love of God was awakened. Shishupal saw the Lord also, but he saw him as his enemy, and his love was not awakened. Therefore, Shishupal achieved oneness with the Lord by merging in the impersonal glare of his body called the Brahmajyoti. Others who were in the marginal position, being neither friends nor enemies, but slightly in love of Godhead, by appreciating the beauty of his face, were at once promoted to the spiritual planets, the Vaikunthas. The Lord's personal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan, and the abodes where his plenary expansions reside are called the Vaikunthas, where the Lord is present as Narayana. Love of Godhead is dormant in every living entity, and the entire process of devotional service unto the Lord is meant for awakening this dormant, eternal love of Godhead. But there are degrees of such transcendental awakening. Those whose love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to the Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky, whereas persons who have just awakened to love of Godhead by accident or association are transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. Essentially, there is no material difference between Goloka and Vaikuntha, but in the Vaikunthas, the Lord is served in unlimited opulence, whereas in Goloka, the Lord is served in natural affection. Paragraph. This love of God is awakened by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Here, the word partastra putaha is significant. Those who saw the beautiful face of the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified first by Arjuna when he made his onslaught with arrows. The Lord appeared for the mission of diminishing the burden of the world, and Arjuna was assisting the Lord by fighting on his behalf. Arjuna personally declined to fight, and the whole instruction of the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna was given to Arjuna to engage him in the fight. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna agreed to fight in preference to his own decision, and thus Arjuna fought to assist the Lord in his mission of diminishing the burden of the world. All the activities of a pure devotee are executed on behalf of the Lord because a pure devotee of the Lord has nothing to do for his personal interest. Arjuna's killing was as good as killing by the Lord himself. As soon as Arjuna shot an arrow at an enemy, that enemy became purified of all material contaminations. Wow. Blessed is Arjuna. And became eligible to be transferred to the spiritual sky. Those warriors who appreciated the lotus feet of the Lord and saw his face at the front had their dormant love of God awakened, and thus they were transferred at once to Vaikuntha Loka, not to the impersonal state of Brahmajyoti, as was Shishupal. Shishupal died without appreciating the Lord, while others died with appreciation of the Lord. Both were transferred to the spiritual sky, but those who awakened to love of God were transferred to the planets of the transcendental sky. Final paragraph. Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra because they had attained to Vaikuntha, whereas he remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord. Bhagavatam is such elevated subject matter. When reading this, I was thinking of one of the questions that was asked from your group during that call. Girl saying, when I was growing up, I started to feel allergic to the word God. And lots of people, younger generation people for sure, probably others, just hearing the word God is like they recoil. But look at this. It's not just appreciation of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're just getting started. This is third canto. It's not 10th canto, it's third canto. And Uddhava speaking to Vidura, who's also vastly learned and very elevated spiritually. And their exchange is very elevated, naturally, because he just asked a simple question. How are Krishna and Balaram and the other persons who are associates of Uddhava in Dwarka, because Uddhava was largely with Krishna and Krishna was largely in Dwarka. So that was the question. And Uddhava's struggled to come out of his trance and speak about Krishna. So this is part of that discussion. There's 3 paragraphs, so we'll just take it in 3 parts. There's the position of liberation. There's the position of Arjuna. And there's the position in the last paragraph, the position of Uddhava's feelings. And they're all transcendental, varieties of transcendental. So the emphasis in the first paragraph is the missions of the Supreme Lord, Prithanaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, and although they look the opposite, they have the same outcome, that is spiritual elevation. And there's differences in spiritual elevation depending upon one's regard for Krishna. So Shishupal is in his own category. Now, it's a detail which Prabhupada doesn't have to present every detail in every purport. His being merged in the Brahmajyoti, or the effulgence of his body, because according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, according to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, there's two types of liberation, or merging, sayuja, merging into the jyoti, merging into the body of the Lord. And of the two, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya concludes, merging into the body of the Lord is most abominable, because they can see the Lord, and they're not just seeing the effulgence, they're seeing his form, and they want to merge with his form, or they merge with his form. So the spectators that saw the liberation of Shishupal saw him merge into the body of the Lord. So whether it's the merge into the body of the Lord, or what Prabhupada is writing here, the effulgence of the body of the Lord, it's sayuja. However, the acharyas describe it was kind of like a holding position, and doesn't say the trigger, but after some time, because this position of Jai and Vijay were to return after they were killed by Krishna. So they returned to Vaikuntha. But this position of merging into the Brahmajyoti does not mean that automatically all those who merge into the Brahmajyoti or into the body of Krishna, some time passes and they go to the Vaikuntha realm, or they enter into Vaikuntha planet. It has everything to do with the attitude or the regard, specifically even the inclination for service, and others who have an inclination for service and see the Supreme Lord at the time that they leave their body or think of the Supreme Lord, they attain a position where they can continue service in the spiritual realm. I'm tempted, so I think I will. Many of you are aware, a very wonderful Vaishnav, Krishna Kshetra, no, excuse me, Kandamakhanana Swami is about to leave his body. And he's a hero. I mean, his body is a vegetable. He can't breathe. He can barely breathe. But so consciousness is everything. And for all of us, the reality is the body is going to be taken from us, and then consciousness is going to determine where we go after this body. It's pretty amazing. It's super amazing how his real shelter is the personality of Godhead. His body, who knows what kind of pain it's undergoing, and he can't speak. He can barely breathe. So we don't have those problems presently. Now, this is just some of my appreciation for all of what he's doing as an example for all of us. We can breathe, and we're not in who knows the degree of pain that his body is undergoing, and we can't concentrate. So if we can't concentrate when those circumstances happen, what's going to happen? Prabhus, take a lesson. So the lesson here is because it's Uddhava speaking about Arjuna and Krishna and the liberation of those that saw Krishna. And there's those that see Krishna, Shishupal saw Krishna, and different persons will see Krishna. So some will happen like Shishupal, some will go to Vaikuntha, Some will go to Krishna Loka. The destination is resting upon consciousness, and we can get some idea of consciousness by where the mind goes, but the mind is just an instrument, and the consciousness is the soul. So seeing the Supreme Lord, what a great fortune. So Krishna came to do these two things, and the destination, his kindness is equal, but the concentration is going to be different. The attentiveness and the regard for service is going to be different. And same for all of us. Then comes this nice paragraph, very, very nice paragraph, about the arrows of Arjuna. The arrows of Arjuna, when striking them, because it's Arjuna, but it's the arrows of Arjuna, and because the arrows of Arjuna striking them, then one's liberated. I wonder what happened to Krishna's armies. Is whatever the number, 11 Akshuhini divisions. They were on the other side. And how could they fight against Arjuna? Because they're Krishna's devotees. Anyway, leaving that to the side. It's a mystery. There are many mysteries. But just by being so, before seeing the Supreme Lord face to face when leaving their bodies, there was being struck by the arrow of Arjuna. So whether it's the Kshatriya's position of a pure devotee like Arjuna and the pure devotee Arjuna striking warriors with arrows is the one reciprocation, and the other is someone who's, like we heard the verse yesterday, Yarideka Karidaha Krishna Upadesh. One should speak the message of Krishna. So we don't have arrows, we don't have those, but we have other astras. And the astras they're empowered to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who are we? We're certainly very tiny, and we're certainly less than perfect. So what about the astras? What's the effect? The effect is absolute, and the absolute effect is going to differ from the arrow throwers and the arrow recipients. There's variables, but the arrow doesn't change. Bhakti is pure, and if we simply repeat the bhakti message, Krishna Upadesh, then it's pure. Our consciousness may not be pure. That's another thing. But the effect isn't going to be the same. But it's nonetheless, it doesn't change the astra, or doesn't change the Krishna Upadesh. So, in other words, we, any one of us, may be less than perfect. That's okay. Speak the message of Krishna anyways, to our capacity. And what's the purpose? The purpose isn't, I'm up there and people are down there, so let me be munificent and give those lesser people something nice. That consciousness isn't the right consciousness. It's just be like an arrow fired by Arjuna, or a representative of Krishna, and you give Krishna's message to others because Lord Chaitanya has ordered it. And to the degree that one is in that consciousness, that's the Guru consciousness, Shiksha giver consciousness. It's Krishna's message. There's the recipient of Krishna's message. You're just delivering the message to whomever you meet. And that's purifying. So Arjuna is firing arrows, and Arjuna's firing arrows is purifying. It's the capacity of being struck by one of Arjuna's arrows. You don't have to experiment. But if it were to happen, or it was happening on the battlefield, and persons became liberated just by being struck by Arjuna's arrows. And he had a lot of arrows. I was just reading yesterday from Mahabharata about Arjuna receiving the Lord Shiva's astra, Pashupat astra. And it goes back. It's nice. When Arjuna received Mayadanava, he was given shelter by Mayadanava. Or, excuse me, Arjuna gave shelter to Mayadanava. After that protection, long narration. I don't want to go there too long. Indra came before Arjuna very pleased because Indra is his father. He was very pleased and said, "You did a really nice job. You're such a wonderful son. Take any benediction. I want all your weapons because I'm going to have to do this battle, and I want all your weapons." So Indra smiled and said, "They're yours, but you won't receive them till after you get Lord Shiva's weapon." So some time passed, and he was in the forest, and he saw a wild boar. And as he was firing his arrow to kill the wild boar, it doesn't say what the motive was, but it was a demon. And there was a Kirata who told him, this is my target, don't shoot your arrow. And Arjuna's like, what? Don't shoot your arrow. He shot his arrow. It's a long story, Mahabharata, long story. And the two arrows simultaneously hit the boar. There was a demon, and the form of the demon came out. And then the Kiratas, they had some conflict. Why'd you do that? I said, don't do it. I said, no, I'm Arjuna. So they had some battle, and it was Lord Shiva appearing because he wanted to test the capacity of Arjuna, and he was so pleased with Arjuna. He showed his form of Lord Shiva and said, any benediction do you want? He said, I want your weapon. He said, this is a very powerful weapon. This is the weapon that I use at the time of dissolution of the universe. And you want my weapon? Yes, I want your weapon. He said, then you have to make this vow that you never use it in such and such and such and such circumstance. And it was to be fired by mantra. And then after getting that weapon, that was the cue. Now he can go to Indra, and he got Indra's weapons, and he's loaded up with so many weapons, including in it a quiver that would supply unlimited arrows. I mean, all this mysticism, and he's a nice devotee. He didn't do any mystic yoga practice, but he was given all these mystical powers because of his intimate service to Krishna. And he wasn't going to misuse them. People that get mystic powers not easily can you misuse them to show off or get some recognition or something. Prabhupada told the story when Kumbh Mela he went to, he saw one yogi come walking on water. And his father came behind him with a stick. He said, what did you do? You could just cross the river with a boat. You went off into the mountains and do mystic yoga so you could walk across the water. What are you doing? Prabhupada told the story. So mystic powers are real, but a devotee isn't interested in mystic powers. The devotee is interested in Krishna's service. And for that reason, Indra gave what he gave, and Lord Shiva gave what he gave, and Arjuna's using his power only according to the indication of Krishna, not because he wanted, but because Krishna wanted. Because he's doing what Krishna wanted, although it's killing, it had spiritual potency, it had potency to liberate. So same for us. We're not Arjuna and we're not warriors and we're not lots of things. But we all have instructions given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and through disciplic succession, etc. And that's very powerful. It has the power to simply put, it has the power to engage people in devotional service. There's a little document I created because I met in the course of my travels, I met someone, without the detail, his younger brother died. He was very close to his younger brother. Wonderful devotee, his younger brother, medical doctor. During the pandemic, he just did volunteer service to cure people of that disease, and he contracted the disease and died in service to others. And so his elder brother, a nice devotee, became, because his younger brother was so wonderful. And it's like he has not yet completely overcome his grief. So I was wanting to encourage him that you can use this document. Premananda, remind me, and I'll send you the document. If anyone has a family member or relative in bloodline, someone before you or someone after you, like in this case, a younger brother, you can benefit all of them simply by becoming elevated in devotional service. So there are a few places. One is in Prahlad's teachings. It's in Canto 7, Chapter 10, where Lord Nrsingadev says, your father has already liberated. In fact, so many generations have already been liberated. And the same is in Krishna book in relation to King Nriga. The verse says, spoken in the Bhagavatam, if you take the property of a Brahmana, then you're going to suffer and generations will also suffer. And then Krishna book, Prabhupada has, and if you become a devotee, a pure devotee, so many generations will benefit. So if you want to benefit someone who's departed, pretty simple, become a pure devotee. Or proportionate to, we can say that. Benefit will go simply because they're a family member. And they may not be inclined, but they get benefit. So there's a room conversation where one devotee asked Prabhupada, what kind of liberation? It's a good question. And Prabhupada said, his answer was devotional service. In their next life, devotional service, because that's from the liberated platform. And that's a big benediction. So we've got it. Somehow, we received it. We said yes, instead of let me think about it, which means no. Often it means no. So there's power in the astra of taking the message of Krishna and delivering the message of Krishna. And there's power in becoming a devotee and becoming a pure devotee, even more power. And you don't have to do anything else. You can do other things. It's natural that you would do other things, but you don't have to do anything else, because becoming a pure devotee, people in your family line will become liberated, wherever that soul may be. It's certainly mystical, but it's true. And then the last paragraph, I'm going to end, short paragraph, but Uddhava is feeling something. Uddhava is feeling unfortunate. Uddhava seemingly lamented that his own position was less than that of the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because They had attained to Vaikuntha, whereas he remained to lament the disappearance of the Lord. So that's his humility, whereas Uddhava's destination, by that absorption in thought of Krishna, so complete, and it's not like he didn't do any devotional service. That's all he did was devotional service. But it's a transcendental mood, and transcendental moods like this are ecstatic, although it may look like something other. So Vaishnav humility is ecstatic, although it may look like something else. Just make sure your Vaishnav humility is with Krishna at the center. And you can think it's as small about yourself as you like. It's okay. Don't forget Krishna and your position of being meant for Krishna's service. It's going to end there. See if there's some discussion. Yes, Premananda.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You just mentioned.
Speak. He'll fix it.
Yeah, you just mentioned if someone is just being
What?
someone is a pure devotee, then you don't need to do anything in particular for generations in the past or future. They will get benefited.
In the past.
In the past, yeah. So
That's what Scripture says, anyway.
So recently there was some discussion on our second initiated group about Shraddha ceremony, and this was, whether to do Shraddha or not to do. So then the thought came that, Lord Chaitanya went to Gaya to do Shraddha for his parents, and
His father.
I was, so was there any reason, it's not like a superficial Shraddha that people may do? Lord Chaitanya must have done it for a...
You have two questions. Why did he do it, and should we do it?
That is where it went.
It was a pastime. He was a Brahmana, and he's doing what young Brahmana boys do. He follows the Vedic code. He's knowledgeable in the Vedic code, and he was following the Vedic code. That's why he did it. And there's another reason, to meet Ishwar Puri and to receive Diksha. And then the rest, and then the rest. So in other words, there's a whole flow of a spool, or a unfolding of his pastimes, and that's why he did it. To teach by example. And it's many other things, details. Like, here's a detail. On the way to Gaya, he contracted a very severe fever, and nothing could cure the fever. According to our Bhakti Siddhanta, he explains, the only cure, they tried this doctor, that doctor, the only cure was drinking the water that washed the feet of the Brahmanas. So his disciples washed their feet, and he drank the water, and he was cured. So it was a step in the process of qualifying himself, or how one can qualify oneself for Diksha. But the submission unto and receiving the mercy of the Brahmanas. So those are some reasons why he did what he did. Then the bigger question is, what should we do? And then the answer is, it depends. According to faith, you can do or not do. And depends on your relatives. And others, the example that you want to set for relatives or friends or people. So you can do or not do, depending on your faith and the circumstances of life. I haven't done. My mother and father weren't, but I could do. But my conviction is what Prabhupada, what Prahlad Maharaj says, what Lord Nrsingadev says, and what Prabhupada writes, that's good enough for me. And somebody else may not be good enough for them. And it's just anyway, it's not like condescending. It's just there's different kinds of faith, different purposes or missions in life. So you could do or not do, depending. Someone else?
Comment and a question, Maharaj. The comment is tying back to the discussion yesterday
Which one?
about Amoga and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya,
I was thinking more about that one too. Go ahead.
of how, because of his father-in-law's devotion, Amoga got purified, even though he was not inclined, as you mentioned. Question I was having is, on a mundane level, the emotion of grief, because Krishna had just passed away in the morning of that day that Vidura and Uddhava are speaking, or not passed away, but he left.
That
And-
morning? Not that. That's a detail. It wasn't that morning.
I heard it from the class from you, Maharaj. But
This that morning?
yeah, and then the evening is when they meet.
I'm not sure. If I said that in a class, I'm not sure it's right.
This was 10 years
Whether I
ago.
said it in a class or didn't say it in a class, I'm not sure it's right.
So my question though is, on a mundane level, the feelings of grief can cloud one's
The feelings of grief, what?
sense of discrimination.
Yes.
And in Uddhava's case, he's experiencing transcendental grief. Does it and can it cloud one's sense of discrimination?
Yes.
Part of my question also related to earlier.
But it's not permanent.
Yeah.
Transcendental emotion can cloud one's sense of discrimination. And then the cloud parts, and then one can see. So it happens. But your transcendental position is a transcendental. And so transcendental emotion can cloud one's discrimination temporarily, then another transcendental emotion moves and it's transcendental. So it's not, so to say yes is not to say it clouds like material attachment clouds one's discrimination and lamentation due to material attachment. Transcendental is different. Think of the residents of Vrindavan.
Yeah.
They lost all sense, or look at, etc. Next,
Good, Maharaj.
you had something else following?
Well, I was thinking about earlier in this section how Uddhava is, now he's feeling unfortunate about how, compared to himself, these others have gone to Krishna's abode, whereas he's left behind lamenting Krishna's departure. And earlier in the section, he is feeling the Yadu dynasty in its entirety unfortunate because they didn't see Krishna in his full glory as the personality of Godhead. Rather, they saw him more from the perspective as super soul. I was wondering if the circumstance of transcendental grief had anything to do with his vision of how the Yaud dynasty is fortunate or unfortunate.
Let's go to ground zero. Uddhava is absolutely transcendental. And therefore, on that basis, one can say anything that he was thinking or feeling was transcendental. Now, in the flow of the feelings and the thoughts and the contemplations of a transcendentalist, it's difficult to discern cause and effect, meaning the spiritual potency or internal potency is flowing like a river flowing, and there's rising and falling of different emotions by the flow of the internal potency. So he's conducted completely by the internal potency, completely. So the cause and effect, who can say? And whatever may be the cause and the effect, wait a moment, and here comes another wave, and here comes another wave, and here comes another wave. The principal basis of, he's revealing things. I'm not saying what he reveals is merely temporary. It's just revealing a realization, a transcendental emotion and understanding at different times and different circumstances. So the answer could be, and maybe other impetuses moving, and without the description of our acharyas, is this the cause? Anyone else?
A couple questions, Gumaraj. In the purport, Shishupal's position is mentioned as one who saw Krishna but did not have love for him, and therefore he merged into the effulgence. So is that the same case with Duryodhana?
You don't hear much about the destination of Duryodhana. And I'm trying to think of some reference. What was the destination of Duryodhana? I can't think of any reference. Does anybody in the room can think of some reference? The destination of Duryodhana? You want to research it? Huh?
I thought it was the heavenly planet because when Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he reached, when he was, I don't know, not really seeing the hell and the heaven, at that point Yudhishthira Maharaj appears to have seen all the Kauravas in the heavenly planet and did not see the Pandavas for a few seconds or whatever. He felt, how did my brothers go into the hellish planet? In that context, it looks like all the Kauravas went into the heavenly planet.
That's a Mahabharata explanation. According to Mahabharata, that was the destination also of Yudhishthira and the Pandavas, which is different than description in the Bhagavatam. So Sri Radhika, you can take an assignment and report back to us. See if you can find out from Bhagavatam and our acharyas what was the destination of Duryodhana. In addition to what's said in Mahabharata. Next.
There is a word in the purport, Gumaraj, that I found interesting, and the word is accident. So Prabhupada writes, but those whose love of God is awakened to the fullest extent go back to the Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky, whereas persons who have just awakened to love of Godhead by accident or association are transferred to the Vaikuntha planets. Would you please explain the word accident?
Accident or association. Well, my thought is going to Putana and others who not by association. They went to the spiritual world, but by circumstance, not by association, and they became a sadhaka and something.
And Guru Maharaj, it seems that it's either our karma which determines what happens to us, or it's Krishna's mercy. So where's the accident in that? It seems everything is.
Well, it's in contrast to sadhu sangha. That's just a nice band-aid. Generic term. By a practice and a cultivation arising from sadhu sangha or some other, call it an accident. So it's not an accident, but it's an accident. It's in this other category, somehow or other. That's it. Srila Prabhupada ki. Online, excuse me.
This is from Prakash Narayan Govindan Prabhu. Is there any way one can identify transcendental emotions when it occurs in oneself? It doesn't.
Yes, Krishna is at the center. Srila Prabhupada.